Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host for Sales and Cigars. Have another fun episode today. Richard from One Call Closers, a real sales guy, a guy that's built a business around closers. We have a great conversation about what he looks for, the 5 things that he looks for in a closer, in a great salesperson. And then we talk a little bit about this university that he's building to help somebody. So if it doesn't matter if you're a mechanic, a stay-at-home mom or dad, a bug sprayer guy. This is one of the examples he gave. They can bring you into their organization, teach you, certify you to be a closer, and then offer you a position that will get you 6 figures a year. And you don't have to do anything other than to join the university. There's a small fee for that, but you don't have to have credentials. You don't have to be a college graduate. You could just decide you want to do something different. You want some freedom because you can do this from anywhere in the world with a computer and an internet connection. So go grab a cocktail, go grab a cigar, strap in for another great episode of Sales and Cigars. So Richard, thanks for jumping on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule.
Yeah, thank you, Walter. I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me.
You do a lot of these?
No, I don't. No.
I'm trying to get into being a guest on podcasts, and I'm kind of just wondering what it's like to be on the other side. Sometimes, to me, it's about having a fun conversation about sales, and usually when you get a couple of sales guys together, that's fairly easy to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's jump in. When you're looking for, I think you call them closers, but when you're looking for that top sales type person, what is it? What's your process, or what is it you're looking for? Can you kind of shed some light on what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our line of sales is relatively, I guess, unique, Walter, because we're closers, right? So by the time we get somebody on the phone, they've kind of been vetted already. So they've gone through an application process. We know that they're interested in what we're selling. And so it's our job as a closer to close the deal. And I would say 70% of our sales are one call closes. And happens within about a 30-minute conversation, and we're selling anywhere from $5,000 products up to $50,000 products, right? All over the phone. And so the crazy part, man, is we've taken literally people that have never been in sales and we've turned them into closers. I mean, we've had mechanics, we've had bug sprayers, we have nurses, stay-at-home moms, and I always say there's 5 things that I have.
Wait. You turn a bug sprayer into a closer.
Yeah,
I love it. That's a great example. So you've got 5 things. Sorry for interrupting, but that was cool.
So there's 5 things that I think, that we really look for now when it comes to anybody that's going to be a pretty good closer, right? And that's going to be they're committed, number 1. Meaning when I say committed is they're committed to being a closer. They want to be the best and they're committed to that.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right? Number 2 is they're competitive, right? They don't want to be the second guy on the sales leaderboard. They want to beat people and they're competitive. Not aggressive competitive where they want to stomp on everybody, but they want to.
No, but fun, trash talking. Hey, I got you last month. You're gonna, go after it again.
Yep.
That loud, boisterous kind of fun competitiveness.
That's it.
But it's like an Italian family, dinner where everybody's yelling and trying to get attention, but God forbid somebody talks crap about the family, right? Because you're going to protect each other. That's what I love about closers.
Yep. That's it right there. And then, the third trait is they're humble, right? I've never met a great closer that wasn't humble. And what I mean by humble is they're open to feedback, right? They always want to get better and they can take criticism and feedback and they take it and they get better.
Coachable, right?
Coachable. Exactly. I guess that's another word. I guess coachable, humble, I guess they're interchangeable in my head.
Well, but there's if you're not humble, you're not going to be coachable.
Yep.
And I think it's a great perspective. How do you tell? How does that? I know you got another one, but how do you tell if they're coachable? If they, in terms of in your conversations?
You know what? The best thing that I love, man, is we'll get somebody in there, and after their first call, they say, "Hey, here's my first call. Can I get some feedback on it?"
Oh,
and I'm
awesome.
like, man, this guy, that's a really good sign, Walter.
That's huge because they're asking for it.
They're asking.
That's
for
cool.
It. Yep. And that just tells me right there, like, dude, this guy's, he's humble. Maybe he came from somewhere but he's not just full of it. He's not thinking, oh man, he just wants the feedback and he's asking for it. And we love that. It's a great sign in our line of business.
That's awesome. So what's the next one?
And then the fourth one, we got hungry. They're hungry, baby. They
want to buy something.
They get after it, right? Like every day they're looking at, man, okay, look at the calendar. Who am I going to what life am I going to change today? Hey, when their schedule's a little bit lighter, they're calling no-shows, they're calling leads that they talked to in the past, and they're getting after it, man. They're hungry.
Awesome. All right, 5.
And then 5 is optimistic. They're positive.
Okay.
Right? I'm yet to meet a great salesperson, Walter, that is pessimistic.
I'm one of those people that I think you have to be optimistic to be a salesperson because we got to go out and create something, right? Mm-hmm. You got to get after it, like you said.
Yep.
I think that I look at it at least for me, I temper it with some skepticism when I'm talking to somebody, right? I'm a little bit skeptical. I lived in New York a long time, so I kind of I'm a little skeptical of what people are saying. Yeah. But if we're not excited to get up and optimistic about jumping into what we're doing, then we shouldn't be doing it. Because if we're not having a good time, this is too hard a job.
Too hard a job, man. You're going to get the no's, you get the people hanging up on you, you get the bad, the tire kickers. And it's like, well, how am I going to get on the next call and be optimistic about it and look forward to it, right? So
that's the challenge, right?
All of
us. I used to have a 3x5 card on my desk because I'm one of those guys that started their career making 450 dials a day with a reverse directory. So when somebody says they can't make 20 calls a day, I kind of call bullshit on them. But but for me, it was just next, right? I had that little 3x5 card on the phone, next, because I didn't talk to a lot of people doing those 400 dials, but when I did, you had to make the best of it. You had to be optimistic. Mm-hmm. You had to get excited because you didn't know if you're going to get, who was going to be the next one. Those are great rules. Great things to look for.
Heck yeah.
I love it.
Heck yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, what about your business, because you've got some interesting things that you're going about. I mean, you're closing business for people, and you're doing it for a variety of people. So can we talk a little bit about your ideal client, what that person does, what they need sold?
Yeah.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, the company's called One Call Closers, and essentially what we do is we help online influencers sell their online digital products. So we are specialists in either you're selling like a course, a mastermind, or a coaching program online. And then what we'll do for the influencers, say, hey, instead of you having to build out your internal sales team, having to get a great sales manager in there, a great leader in there, why not just use One Call Closers? We're all performance based. We train everybody. We do the daily role plays. We have all the processes and procedures already dialed in. We take literally thousands of sales calls every month. And so our pitch is nobody's going to beat us on the phones simply because we get way more sets and reps than everybody else because of the style of business we do. So then it's okay, well, let's use One Call Closers. There's no risk to them because it's all performance based. If we don't make you money, you don't pay us, right?
You eat what you kill.
We eat what we kill. Yeah.
So do they have to have talk about how that gets set up, right? Because you're you're getting somebody who's interested. They have done something to raise their hand, I'm assuming, at the point where you guys jump in. So is there some kind of inbound stuff that's going on, a funnel, a ladder or something?
Yeah, heck yeah, man. So we not only do we do the closing, right? So the sales team, but we also do the high ticket funnels because, in the online space, right? You have basically your top of funnel stuff, which is going to be the traffic. So either using Facebook ads, Instagram, YouTube, you're getting eyeballs on your stuff, and then you're going to send them through a funnel, right? And how that funnel is set up matters because every point in the customer journey it's always closing. Like every point of that journey is closing. Like you're closing the customer on why they should pay attention. Then you're closing the customer on why they should book a call. And then you're closing the customer on why they need to move forward and get the product. And so what we do actually is like throughout that entire customer journey is we can do every part of that. So we can do the top of the funnel stuff. We can do the funnel stuff. And then we can also set up the sales team. And it's not like every part of that journey has to be dialed in because if one part of that journey doesn't work or doesn't work right, then you're never going to have a really successful online business, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Because you're, if you're not engaging them properly, and so many people do it poorly,
yes,
where it's kind of, for lack of a better word, schlocky.
Yeah.
But if you're not adding them value, you're not helping them see where there's an upside to this next step in that funnel, then you're not closing and you're wasting everybody's time and resources.
100%.
So you can help them create those funnels and then take them all the way through and close them on a mastermind, a coaching program, or whatever is that bigger ticket item at the end.
That's it. Yes, sir. And the way I describe us is really we're an acquisition company. So we're a performance-based acquisition company.
I like it because that's not how the models typically work for the people that are out there trying to close. And is it fair to say you kind of cut your teeth with Dean and Tony in your younger days? Is that fair?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
You learned the business. I mean, because you're doing it right. If you're the success that you're having, you have to be modeling, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Yep. And I got started. So my mentor, the guy that got me started in this line of business, his name is Bedros Keuilian. And so, there's a whole story that goes into how I met that guy or, whatnot. But he's the one that got me started in the space. And at the time he was selling a lot of coaching programs, masterminds, all these things online. I ended up working for him and I didn't even know he was going to put me into sales. I just knew I wanted to be around this guy. And he's like, hey man, why don't you come work for me? I was like, okay, great. Let's do it. And then he got me into sales. And as I kind of learned, the high ticket space, because that's all he sold was high ticket stuff. I got to learn like, oh, this is what the funnels look like. Oh, this is how you close people in like one call. Oh, this is how the marketing's ran. And I took all that experience that I got from that. And then that's when I ventured out and then eventually started One Call Closers. But like, yeah, to your point, Walter, is like I had to learn the business. And I was just fortunate to learn the business from somebody that was doing it at a very high level. And so I was able to transfer that knowledge into what we do now, essentially.
And those guys that are like those mentors or for younger people, I think at least the ones I've run into that have helped me, they get really jazzed and excited when they see one of their people that they've worked with go be successful for themselves on their own. And they really, because it's sort of a validation for themselves. And then just being known that you help somebody get someplace and build something. I mean, you built a big company that's helping a lot of people, including not just your employees, but everybody associated with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to make you proud. It's got to make everybody that's been associated with you proud. I mean, that's part of the juice, I think, of what we do.
There's no doubt about it. Yep. You're spot on, man.
So let's talk a little bit about the closers. You had mentioned that there was you were creating a university, a way to build your own closers or train your own people. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that seems pretty exciting.
Yeah. So, I don't think so. One thing I don't think people realize in like the e-learning space, which is the space that I'm in, right? Like knowledge, people consuming information online. I mean, that space right now, Walter, is growing like wildfire. Like
billions of dollars, right?
billion. And
Billions
by
of
2030, they project the e-learning space to be over $1 trillion industry.
Yeah.
And so it's growing like wildfire. And so what that means, you know, because of the growth, there's massive opportunity in that space. And with more people than ever selling courses, products, information online, well, guess what they need? They need somebody to sell those products, right? And
Yes, they
and
do.
right now, like there's a shortage, man. Like there's a shortage in high ticket closers. And it's something that not a lot of people are talking about, but it's the only profession that I know of that literally, like, you don't need a college degree for this. You just need to learn one skill of closing, and you can do it from anywhere in the world with a laptop because all of our stuff is remote. All you need is Zoom. We do Zoom calls, and you can make $10,000 to $30,000 a month from anywhere in the world with just a laptop.
Yep. An internet connection, just sitting there, having fun, talking to people, earn a great living.
Making a great living. And guess what? There's no cold calling in what we do, right? We don't do cold calls. We don't go and farm for our own leads like a typical sales job. Like every day you wake up and you have like warm leads on your calendar, right? And so our biggest problem right now with our agency is that we just can't get enough closers in the door. Like there's plenty of influencers. I could go out right now and I mean, there's just thousands of influencers that are trying to sell stuff. So like the opportunity's there, but I can't get enough closers. And so I was like, well, in order to solve that problem, let me create the One Call Closers University. And so basically what the offer is, it's like anybody that currently has like a 9-to-5 job that they don't like, that they're just like tired of, and they just want to make an income online. Well, what we'll do is we'll say, okay, buy into our university. We'll train you on how to one call close using our methods. We'll certify you, like actually certify you under One Call Closers. And then once you're certified with us, we'll guarantee you a 6-figure closing position within our agency. And
what's the downside of that?
That's just it, right? There's like, I don't know what the downside of that is. And that's why when we were coming up with the offer, I was like, how do you make an offer so like retardedly good that like, why would somebody say no?
Well,
right.
And there's so many people, disenfranchised isn't the right word, but unhappy with their role.
Yeah.
And they want some freedom they know they got to work, right? There's probably some people that don't think that they have to work, but the people that want to hustle, the people that are optimistic, the people that are humble, the people that want to go earn a living, those people can come learn how to close properly through your university.
Yeah.
And then they could go do this for somebody else. They could go do this for themselves. They could go do it. They pretty much have a job lined up for them with you, and you're backfilling what you need to be able to go out and grow your business with people that are trained properly.
That's it. And to me, what I would call that, I hope, is just a win-win, right? Like nobody loses in that scenario. I hope.
I don't see how if you're unhappy with the role that you're in, the only downside could be is they tried something and they didn't like it, or they tried something and they didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the only downside, but you still learn something as that individual. They took a swing and it wasn't for them. Okay.
Yep.
Go back to being a bug sprayer or mechanic or whatever else that they want to try next. I love it. That's a great, it's really a great service to people that are looking to make a change. Because you could be sitting in Panama on a boat doing this, right?
You can, man. And that's what everybody's after, right? Everybody's after, freedom. Everybody wants freedom. Like most entrepreneurs, if they're being honest, the reason why they want to be an entrepreneur is because they want freedom, right? Like freedom of their choices, their time, what they do with their life, like all that stuff. And so whatever freedom means to them, but freedom's an important word for those. Like that's who the people that I want to work with is that entrepreneur that's trying to
double their company in 3 years.
There you go.
Not really sure how to do it, but they want it because I'm looking for that word. I'm looking for that word freedom. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
When I want to
right?
do it. Yep.
And that's it's really what you're offering people without the college education, without the bullshit stuff that everybody's told they got to do.
That's it.
Along the way.
That's it, man. And I got a bachelor's degree and I went to college and I'm like, man, yeah.
Why?
Not a big fan of college. Even though I got my degree, I still feel like it was one of the dumbest things I did. But, but to Walter, to that point, where do you go to learn sales? Like, there's no college for sales.
There's a couple of programs in different schools, but nothing. It's all going to be theory. It's like getting an MBA.
Yeah,
it's theory, right? And what you're going to do is teach somebody a very specific skill, and you're going to teach them how to do it in the real world.
Yep.
Practical knowledge, not just like the theory of what physics are. I went to school probably a few years before you did, and I put myself through school when you could, right? Because now that's next to impossible for the cost of it.
Oh, it's crazy.
And what I took out of it was how to get what I wanted out of an institution, how to get along with other people that I had never dealt with before, right? I learned that kind of practical stuff, how to take care of myself, how to balance a checkbook, how to do my own laundry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I learned. And, I got an economics degree. So, yeah, I can read the Wall Street Journal and I understand we're in a recession, despite what anybody else says. Yeah. And I know, interest rates and all that, but I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I got out of school, somebody asked me like, hey, what is it you're going to do? I didn't have a really clear, good answer. So
that's you and everybody else.
Like a lot of us, we go into sales because there's a bit of a personality. There's a pretty low freaking bar to get in. But I didn't have somebody, willing to train me to be that closer. My training was, hey, there's a desk over there. Go grab that chair and we'll get you a phone.
Yeah, I'll get you a phone.
That was my training.
Repetition, baby.
And yeah, and School of Hard Knocks, all that stuff. And I did it in a city that wasn't very forgiving.
Jeez.
That's a really great story. I love how big's the company?
So right now we have about 38 closers that close right now currently.
Cool. And what do you need? Where do you need to be where you're to hit your next set of goals?
And that's the tough part with our business, man, is like, there's a few things that you can leverage to grow a business. You can leverage technology, and, leveraging technology is, I think, easier than leveraging human capital, which is like, closers. You can leverage, social media to grow your company, which is nice because that's infinitely scalable. But what we have to leverage is we leverage closers, but that's human capital, right? And that's very hard to leverage at scale. Imagine going from 40 closers to over 100 closers. Well, you have to manage those people. You have to make sure they're closing. You have to you have to be training them every day. So that's one of the hardest parts with our business is that scalability factor. Because we need so many closers. And
that's why you start your own school to teach them how to do it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. But then, you run into the other issues, right? Of like managing that many people. Like, right now we have all our team leads and every day we're doing role plays and every day we have our daily huddles. And, so it's like, man, at 100, like at 40 people right now, it's complicated, but you take that to 100, it even gets way more complicated. So that's the issues that we're trying to solve right now internally. And to your point, Walter, I mean, we'd like to go as far as we can go with it, but it's just a matter of like, installing the right systems and processes to be able to take on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But that scaling is always the challenge when you have people.
Exactly.
And there's some things, right? People talk about AI coming into sales and doing all this. And I think it's going to help us in reach. It's going to help us get access to more people. But for certain things, specifically high ticket things. Transactional stuff, sure, IA can handle it.
Yeah.
But for high ticket stuff where you have to talk to somebody and really, see if it's a fit and do that close.
Yeah.
Always going to need a person.
Always going to need a person. Always
until robots can start to do what we do, which would be pretty scary.
Which would be really scary.
Yeah.
And
unless we're in the Matrix and we don't know.
Yeah, unless we're in the Matrix. Yeah. And then on top of that, in a space that I think is going to continue to grow for a lot of years. Like I don't think e-learning is going to slow down anytime soon.
No, because we just talked about why, right? The college thing,
yeah.
Right? It's not practical. It takes time. It's stupid expensive, and more and more people don't want to spend that time doing that.
Yep.
So we're going to need that ability to communicate with people and have that skill set.
Yep.
So
and I heard a guy explain this pretty smartly, like with college. He's like, listen, today in today's environment, like everything changes so dang fast. Like what's here today is going to change in a week from now. Like the technology, everything's always constantly changing. So you go to college for 4 years. By the time you get out of college, everything you've learned is now outdated anyways. Like you're basically, you're in the past, like, and that's, that hit me hard when I heard a guy tell me that. I'm like, well, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, think about it. Do you want a doctor that doesn't continue to stay current with the current medications? If he's still doling out penicillin for everything.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm not poo-pooing. I've got a daughter in college, and she wanted to do something specific that required.
You got that. Yep.
Some kind of specific training that's science related. So she wasn't going to get that from me.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, it's also a maturation process.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just, $120,000 maturation process. It seems a little crazy. So this is a great conversation. Let's go to cigars, sales and cigars. I always ask if there's a relationship with cigars in your life, any way, shape, or form.
You know what, Walter? So I'll tell you, I'm a guy that actually I love cigars. And there was actually a time in our company now, I actually, our office is like down the street here, where I would go and almost every other day at the office, we'd go outside. We have like a little patio area with a couple benches out there. We would go with some of the sales guys and go smoke cigars. And for a while there, we were doing it every other day. And I loved it because what would happen during those cigar moments is A, cigars are great, but B, you're always, you're conversating, right? Having a cigar, you're talking, and we would get some of our best ideas, man, while smoking a cigar and just chatting, talking about, what's going on in this company, that company with sales, get some great ideas.
You have a chance to get to know somebody and learn about them as well.
Yep.
And those ideas, that creativity starts to flow.
Yep. It starts to flow.
So you were doing it every other day. It got to be a little much.
Got to be a little much. And, my wife was like, hey, you know what? I think you should think about slowing down on those. And, the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, you know what? She's right. So, I'll tell you what, man, now I'd probably say I have a cigar maybe twice a year. Try to keep it for special occasions. But I love cigars, Walter. And if they weren't, have the stigma around them, I'd probably smoke them every day. But,
Yeah, there is a stigma. It's different than cigarettes.
Yeah.
But it's still a stigma, and people, the cigar company Punch, their mascot is the Punch, kind of Celtic character. Yeah. But one of the lines was, Punch cigar was an idiot repellent. So there's an element of that it keeps some people at arm's length. But I think we have to be respectful of other people's space when we have a cigar. 100%. I'm pretty, obviously there's, bars and stuff. I go to cigar lounges and cigar clubs to have a cigar.
There you go.
And, you got to be, my wife hates cigars. She hates the smell of it.
Oh, my wife hates it too. Hates cigars.
But it was her idea to build my little cigar room that I'm talking to you in.
Hates it, but supports it.
Well, she knew it wasn't going to go away. So, you have this barn, just go build the room out there. And, I won't tell her this all the time, but she's off more often than not right. And it's worked out really well for me.
How long have you been smoking cigars, Walter? How many years?
It's been about 18 and a half years.
Wow, there you go.
I started on a golf course.
Oh, there you go.
A buddy of mine was a really good golfer. He was like a 6 handicap, and I was, let's just say he was giving me 20 strokes aside and still winning. So he was smoking cigars because I was off, 5 shots every time he was, waiting for me. So he would have a cigar. And to this day, if I have a Rocky Patel 1992, I think of Greg because that's what he started smoking. So I started bringing him because he was really patient, with somebody that was such a terrible golfer. Eventually he only gave me 10 strokes. So,
yeah, eventually gave me 10 strokes.
But I started on a golf course, and it's been,
wow.
To me, it's something, what you said about sitting with some guys and having conversations and ideas flowed.
Yep.
To me, that's where the creativity comes.
Yep.
And sometimes I just need to be like, I need to occupy my hands so my brain can kind of just relax and go someplace. Mm-hmm. So I usually sitting with one of my journals a couple of times a week, and I have what I call a contemplative cigar.
Oh, there you go.
And it's just me thinking about what problems I'm trying to solve. And there's some really good stuff comes out of that. And I just attribute it to the cigar. But
that's all.
All right, man.
Very cool.
I think this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you jumping on. Anything else that I'll have your website, your email, your social media in the show notes. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we jump off?
You know what, Walter? I think that's it, man. Thanks for having me on, Walter. This was great. And if you're not in closing already, I would say, man, explore it, right? Like it's an awesome profession, and you can make as much money as you want. As you know, Walter, right? It's a great profession, man. So yeah. That's what I would leave the audience with.
I love it. That's it is. I think a great profession because we actually help people when we do this right. We're actually helping people.
That's it.
So,
that's it.
Cool. All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Sales and Cigars with Walter Crosby of Helix Sales Development. For more on sales and cigars, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Sales and Cigars, produced by thepodcastproshop.com.